Welcome back. Tonight's story is a quiet one, the kind that sneaks up on you, not with loud emotions, but with small moments that stay in your chest long after the story ends. It's about shoes, but not really. It's about a brother and a sister, about scraped knees and shared secrets, about how love doesn't always sound like "I love you." Sometimes it's a hand held out in silence, or a pair of shoes passed between worn backpacks on the way to school. This story doesn't take place in a palace. There's no magic, no fairy godmothers, only a boy who made a mistake, and a girl who forgave him without needing to. It's about what we carry, what we share, and what we give up, not because we're asked to, but because we want to. This is the shoes between us. Sami was 12 years old, and like most boys his age, he didn't own much. A scuffed backpack, one pair of worn sneakers, and a little sister who trusted him with everything. Lila was 9. She was quiet, careful, and only had one pair of shoes. They were soft pink, the color faded from time, with fraying laces and a sole that tilted to one side. But they were hers, and she wore them proudly. Since they couldn't afford another pair, they shared. Sami went to school in the morning, Lila in the afternoon. Every day, he'd carry her shoes in his bag, bring them home, and pass them off before she had to leave. It was their silent routine, never questioned, never complained about. But that afternoon, something went wrong. The bus was crowded, the sun too hot, and Sami had been distracted. When he got home and unzipped the side pocket of his backpack, it was empty. He checked again, dug through every compartment, turned it upside down. Nothing. Panic set in. He ran back to the bus stop, retraced his steps, asked the fruit vendor, the boys playing on the corner, even the old shoemaker who nodded but said nothing. The shoes were gone. At home, Lila was waiting by the door, already dressed for school, except for her feet. She looked at him, then down at his empty hands. He couldn't meet her eyes. "I lost them," he whispered. She didn't cry. She just stepped closer, took his hand in hers, and gave a small, gentle smile. "It's okay," she said. "We can share yours." No blame, no anger, just a sister, standing barefoot on a cracked floor, already choosing kindness. They made it work. It wasn't easy, and it definitely wasn't fair. But somehow, they made it work. Sami would wake earlier than usual, squeeze into his too tight sneakers, and run to school before the morning bell. When classes ended, he ran back home, not walked, not lingered, but ran, so Lila wouldn't be late. She waited for him by the door every day, school bag already packed, hair pulled back neatly, socks rolled down around her ankles, The moment he arrived, breathless and sweating, he'd hand over the shoes, and she'd slip them on like they were made of gold. They never talked about how exhausting it was. Never mentioned the days Sammy had to run so fast, his legs ached for hours after. Or how Lila sometimes arrived to school with dust still on her heels. They just kept going. Their parents never found out. There were already too many worries in the house. Rent, work, missing electricity. This wasn't something worth adding to the pile. And so, day after day, one pair of shoes ran two different lives. Sammy's feet grew more sore, the soles grew thinner, and the laces frayed down to thread. But every time Lila smiled and said, "Thanks," he felt like it was enough. Until the day he saw the poster. The school was holding a citywide race. Nothing big, just a local event. But Sammy saw the list of prizes, and next to third place, in small, hopeful letters, it read, "One new pair of sneakers." He didn't care about the medal. He didn't need the applause. But third place? Third place meant something real, something he could hold, something he could give. And so he made up his mind. He would run. For her. Sammy didn't tell anyone he had entered the race. Not Lila. Not his parents. He signed up quietly, writing his name on the list with a pencil so dull it barely left a mark. It didn't matter. What mattered was the prize. The shoes. Training was tricky. He had no gear, no track, no one to show him how to pace himself. Just cracked sidewalks, narrow alleys, and those same two small sneakers that dug into his toes. Still, he ran. He ran after school, before Lila needed the shoes. He ran at dawn, while the world still slept. Sometimes he ran with no direction, just to feel his legs burn, to feel like he was getting closer. Lila noticed the dirt on the shoes one evening. "You've been running more," she said, slipping them on gently. Sammy just nodded. "Trying to get faster," he said. And that was all. On the morning of the race, he left early. The air was cool, crisp with promise. Dozens of kids gathered at the starting line, bouncing in place, stretching, laughing with friends. Sammy stood alone. No coach, no cheering section, just his breath, his feet, and one small hope folded in the shape of a shoebox. When the whistle blew, he ran like he'd never run before. Not with strength, he was smaller than most, but with something deeper. He ran with memory, with love, with the image of his sister waiting by the door, barefoot and smiling. He didn't look back, didn't think. He just ran. It rained the next day. Not the soft, friendly kind of rain, but heavy, cold drops that soaked the pavement and turned the streets into rivers. Sammy had barely dried his shoes from the race, but Lila still needed them. She stood by the door, her school uniform pressed and her socks rolled down neatly. Sammy was late. The shoes were late. When he finally arrived, dripping wet and shivering, She didn't scold him. She just helped him peel the shoes off, wiped them dry with an old cloth, and slipped them on. "I'll be careful," she whispered, tightening the soggy laces. Sammy nodded, guilt sitting like a stone in his chest. They were falling apart. The seams were giving way, but still, they were all they had. That afternoon, she returned limping. One sole had peeled halfway off. Her sock was damp with street water. "They're okay," she said before he could speak. "They just need a little stitching." But her voice trembled. Not from the cold, from holding it in. The disappointment, the weariness. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, Sammy sat by the kitchen light with needle and thread. He poked through rubber and canvas, fingers clumsy, eyes tired. He wasn't a shoemaker. He was just a brother. A brother trying to hold something together before it fell apart. Sammy didn't win the race. Not first, not second, but third. Exactly what he was hoping for. Just enough. Just enough to matter. When they called his name, he stepped onto the small wooden podium, heart pounding so hard it echoed in his ears. No one clapped loudly. His parents weren't there. Lila didn't even know he was running. But in his chest, a quiet fire glowed, a private kind of pride. They handed him a small envelope, not even a box, with a voucher inside. One pair of brand new sneakers. Any color, any size. He held it in both hands like something sacred. He didn't run home that day. He walked, slowly, carefully, letting the rain cool his skin and the weight of what he had done sink in. At home, he didn't say anything at first, just slipped the envelope under Lila's side of their pillow, so she'd find it when she woke. He watched her open it the next morning, rubbing her eyes with one hand and unfolding the note with the other. Her eyes widened, then shimmered. "Sammy," she whispered. He smiled, trying to look casual. "You need new shoes, don't you?" She didn't reply. She just hugged him, tighter than she ever had. And in that moment, he didn't care that his feet still ached, or that his old sneakers were falling apart. He had given her something more than shoes. He had given her the feeling of being chosen. The new shoes were blue, not pink like the old ones, but deep sky blue, with clean white soles and laces that felt like ribbon. Lila wore them carefully at first, walking slowly as if afraid to crease them. Then, a few days later, she ran. Sammy watched her from the sidewalk, pretending to tie his shoe, pretending not to stare. But inside, he was bursting, not just with pride, but with relief. The weight he had been carrying, the guilt, the worry, the endless sprinting, had finally eased. She was lighter now, and because of that, so was he. The old shoes sat quietly by the door. Sammy didn't throw them out. He didn't need to. They were more than just shoes. They were memory. A story of sharing, of sacrifice, of a brother who lost something and found something greater. Now, when he looked at Lila, he didn't see a girl missing a pair of shoes. He saw someone who had been cared for, fully, quietly, and completely. And when she smiled at him across the table, one shoelace undone, he smiled back, because they both knew the truth. Some things don't have to be spoken. They're written in footprints, in scuffed soles, in all the small ways you love someone without ever saying the words.
You never asked for more than one, just laces tied in time to run. And every mile I gave away, I carried love you couldn't say. I ran so you could walk, so you could stand without the weight. I held the silence in my chest and gave you all I didn't take. No medals hung, no voices called, but I ran so you could walk. The shoes we shared wore thin with grace, but still you smiled and still you faced each step as though it didn't burn. You walked in hope I had to earn. I ran so you could walk, so you could reach where I could not. And if they ask what love can be, I'll point to shoes that